Hello. So I haven't been doing much Mythic Plus lately, and I kind of need some content, so that's why I've been posting a lot of Mage Tower POVs and such. Aside from, the Mage Tower just being super fun anyway. And since I had no content planned and I love procrastinating schoolwork, I decided to go get a full set of Timewalking gear and all the ridiculously scaled consumables, and just see how fast I could speedrun the Frost Mage Tower, and then I would try my hardest to speedrun it in full Shadowlands gear with, only Shadowlands cosmetics, and Shadowlands consumables. So I'm gonna show you my results. You can skip to the part of the video that you want to watch on the timeline below. I'll have them labeled. We're gonna start off with the gear comparison. If you're only here to know how fast it was, I'll tell you right now, the fastest I could run the Shadowlands version was 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and the fastest time I ran the Timewalking version was 2 minutes and 29 seconds. I'm confident those could be a decent bit lower, but they'd be almost fully reliant on RNG and just getting back-to-back flurry procs. So yeah. So, quick disclaimer before I get into it, we're going to start with my Timewalking gear set. I did this challenge in Shadowlands gear. I did it with Shadowlands consumables. It is 100% doable in them. You don't need to feel necessary to go out and farm all this stuff. I spent about 125,000 gold on this video. And that's not necessary at all. This is a challenge that is heavily reliant on your mechanics and getting used to the fight and everything. So I'd recommend just watching a guide. To be honest, OK Mage on YouTube made a better guide for it than I did, so I'd recommend watching that. But anyway, into the actual gear, because that's what we're here for. So I went out and just did Siege of Orgrimmar because it has all these multi-socketed gear pieces that you can put multiple intellect gems in, and that has socket bonuses that give you plus intellect, and the helmet has a meta gem that you can put a TBC gem in that gives you 3% increased crit effect. So that's what this is. All these red gems are 3 intellect, which is a lot. It's a lot of intellect. And I went all out and did the enchants as well. So this is Mark of the Claw, the 5 intellect 2 crit, 6 primary stat. These are just Shadowlands enchants. Machinist Brilliance is really strong, low level enchant, plus 8 on the offhand, 4 haste. This is actually a stronger ring enchant, which I don't have on this one because it's a Shadowlands ring. And then my 3 intellect 2 verse enchant. The only enchant I didn't buy was plus 6 intellect to gloves, and that's because it cost 30,000 gold on my server. But some notable things to mention about this gear set is this. I got this from Mythic Ishkar in Hellfire Citadel. This is a really strong Timewalking trinket, so that's why I went after that. And I can't show you right now. I'm not sure which pull it was because I did some Shadowlands pulls afterwards, but you'll be able to see my damage breakdowns after the POV of my speedrun ends. So yeah, this is the gear that I was running, and here's my stats. They're a little different in terms of the intellect. I had 478 intellect. One thing to mention is I bought a plus 6 intellect gem and a plus 7 intellect gem, and I couldn't use them because they actually require item level 50, which none of my Timewalking gear is, but I could have put them in my ring and my bracers. Didn't notice that. Whoops. Could have done a little bit more damage, but doesn't matter too much. And then for the consumables for this build, I end up using the Superior Battle Potion of Intellect, the Endless or Greater Flask of Endless Fathoms, Veiled Augment Rune, and Borealis Blood Sausage, as well as Shadow Core Oil for the Timewalking set. So yeah. And the reason I used a Superior Battle Potion of Intellect instead of Unbridled Fury is because while Unbridled Fury can do like 12k damage in the time that you use it, when I was using it, it was only doing about 5k to raced. And also, it just ended up being that the fastest runs that I had were using the Superior Battle Potion of Intellect. So, Unbridled Potion of Fury or whatever is still a really strong trinket, just apparently not great for this challenge. I think the AoE also diminished it a bit too. Here is what I ran with my Shadowlands gear. I didn't do anything special here. I just used gear I had in my bank or my bags that I hadn't sold, like this thing. I just went for as much crit and haste as I could have. And I typically use the infinitely divisible ooze. I replaced that with the KT trinket. This or Unbound Changeling's good, but Unbound Changeling's a little too RNG for my taste. So I just went ahead and went with that. So we have a lot of crit, and especially KT trinkets can push us up to 31% crit. And one of the big things for that is it makes the little ads die really quickly. But also I just wanted to make sure my Ice Lances crit, because if they don't crit when you're trying to kill the hands, it can take a lot longer to kill them if you just waste a powered Ice Lance on them and they don't die. For consumables for this build, I ended up using the Spectral Flash of Power, Gluttonous Feast, Veiled Augment Rune, and Shadow Core Oil. Spectral Flash and Gluttonous Feast are just worse stat-wise compared to Greater Flask of Endless Fathoms and Borealis Blood Sausage. So, yeah. But they probably also cost less right now. Anyway, the difference between this and my Timewalking gear in terms of stats is 73 intellect, which could have been 86 if I actually used my gems, 6% haste, 3% crit, but ends up being, yeah, probably still around 3% crit, the same amount of mastery, and 4% versatility. So yeah, I'll throw up a comparison here too when I'm saying that. And the last thing to mention is talents. I ran Lonely Winter because it's just straight up more single target damage than Bone Chilling, with the downside that you have to soak your own rune in the last phase, and that's going to be very dangerous, and not having a pet freeze to keep Chrom off you can be a little sketchy too. But you honestly don't really need the pet freeze if you just manage your ads well and everything. So, especially with high crit, you can essentially guarantee a 3-shot on the hands, so you don't need to keep Chrom off you for extended times. And then I went Encounter's Flow. I did a decent amount of attempts with Rune of Power as well, and even managed to get a 3 minute and 36 seconds run in Shadowlands gear with Rune of Power, but Encounter's Flow just ended up beating it out in the end on the pulls that I did with it. I think it was mainly due to Karam just dying a lot faster in the intermission phases where I had to kill him without Rune of Power, because traditionally Rune of Power wasn't up during those. So yeah. So my main goals with the speedrunning challenge to actually gain a lot of time was to less the first burn on race and just try and get him as low as possible. The lowest I ever got him in his first burn was 35% HP, and that was with Timewalking gear. I got him to 38% HP with Shadowlands gear. The reason that's such a minimal difference, even though the time difference in my best runs ended up being about 40 seconds, was probably because the Shadowlands gear run was a Rune of Power run, and the Timewalking gear was an Encounter's Flow one. So if I was running Rune of Power, I might have gotten him down to like probably 25% HP or something with the Timewalking gear. Anyway, after that, it was just doing the fight as normal, though if Raced in the last phase had less than 12% HP, when the hand spawned at the end of the fight, I just ignored the hand and focused Raced, just kicked it. I don't recommend you do that, that's just what I did. Now, to mention the little things I did to min-max my damage that honestly I was kind of doing during my prog of it anyway, but I put my blizzards always on raced and angled them to hit as many ads as possible to maximize the frozen orb CDR I get. I always move so the ads are stacked on raced so that my frozen orb hits both the ads and raced. Really, it's just to make sure it hits raced. And this goes for the last phase as well. When Karom's out, you want to make Karom be standing around raced as much as possible, which is relatively difficult to do with Shimmer because you have so much less movement. And then typically a hand spawns about 5 to 7 seconds after you exit the first raced burn. So if I got a proc off of Karam at the start of that phase, I would hold it for that hand to quickly burn it down. I used Alter in the first burn phase, especially just to avoid having to use my shield at all and to just pump drain less on my cooldowns. My HP didn't really matter because I could just health pot back to full, and would if I just went below 50% HP to keep my ocular gland on the positive side. This goes without saying that even in normal gameplay, but I never used unempowered Ice Lances unless it was to kill the hand. I constantly see people doing this with Shimmer, and they'll just sit at 2 Shimmer charges and walk away from Karam and unempowered Ice Lance, and while walking away, just use Shimmer and keep casting Frostbolt, use it on cooldown. I'm using my Icy Flows on CD and blinking to create distance when I need to always be casting. That's something you can take for your own gameplay.
I took our love and I put it on ice. This bed is cold and it don't feel right. Ain't nobody else cool
When the lights go down, I see hell in you, but you don't care, no, you don't care, no. You just rather watch me fall from a golden mile. I can see you at the glow. Think about it, ring won't tell you what I saw. When you break it off, you'll see who had it all. You had it all. You said you wanted to fall into oblivion. Forget about the world we're living in. Fall into oblivion, 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 oblivion. Oh, go in. Fall into oblivion. Fall into oblivion. Forget about the world we're living in. Fall into oblivion, 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 oblivion. I'm going in. You can't fall asleep when you're counting stars. Get it together. Your mind can't sleep when you let it serve. And now you wanna see me fall from a golden mile. I can see you at the goal. Think about it, ring won't tell you what I saw. When you break it up, you'll see who had it all.